How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and do this mission called For Hard to Reach Places. Somebody said a while ago, like when this phase first came out, that they want to see me try this, and it was one of those I just kept kind of thinking, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, and it kept getting knocked back. Yeah, the difference is though, I'm doing this on mods, and the main reason is I wanted to come mess around with this bridge layer mod. You'll see at the minute, it was actually packed on the trailer. To do that, I had to detach the bridge. I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, I'm on Erskine River, so follow the main road down, kind of cut around the icy bit because I don't like that road section, and go, yeah, like, to get the mission you have to go to that point. But here, like off the side of the road, there's a semi-trailer that's tipped upside down, so you could use the semi-trailer. I wouldn't really recommend it. And then all the various 3 bits of cargo, so like a cabin, a cargo container, and consumables are all there. But yeah, one of the places you've got to get to is there. I can't remember, it's like the Fisherman's Lodge or something. Tried jumping the gap there, that didn't really go too well. I tried that, like, not even when I was doing the mission, just while I had a truck nearby. I just, yeah, went for it. Yeah, there's no way on the island that side, and this way there's kind of rocks leading all the way along there. I could just jump kind of off those rocks and land down here, but that wouldn't really be realistic, like, in real life. And yeah, I just kind of figured this is precisely the point of, like, the bridge laying mod is for stuff like this, so I just kind of wanted an excuse to bring it out in the end. And then yeah, for this last one, like, it looks pretty steep to be honest, and again you can't really see many places that you can go. I mean, to be fair, the mission is called for hard to reach places, so I wasn't exactly expecting them to be a piece of piss, but for some of them they're yeah, like, well, I mean, this first one I'm going to do, for example, on that little island is other than just jumping off the cliff, it doesn't really appear to be many or any other ways. Yeah, basically, like I said, you can't pack stuff if you have a trailer attached, so I had to attach that trailer to pack it onto the ramp flatbed. The only reason I was doing that is because originally I wanted to then I could road train. I've also got a, what's it called, Bartelbi Zikz kind of set up, and this would have been the only way I could have, like, done a winch to the Zikz and had, like, took all 3 vehicles in one. But yeah, it was doing that, so instead I got rid of the ramp flatbed, and now I'm doing like a road train, just towing that thing behind me. And I didn't know if I'd need it or not, but I brought, well, the Iceberg I've got a sideboard on, because all the things you need to grab, there's 5 slots in total, and like I said, there is an upturned semi-trailer. The reason I wouldn't recommend using the semi-trailer though is because some of these places are pretty awkward to get to. On top of that, like, you might have to turn around, blah blah blah, and yeah, having a big long semi-trailer isn't going to be the most ideal. Having a sideboard on, like, the Iceberg, there's a cargo, that's 2 slot, the cabin thing 2 slot, and then the last thing, whatever it is, consumables, is 1 slot, so yeah, it's like you just hauling a semi-trailer around. I wouldn't advise it. When I get to this point, I don't really know what made it tip, but I just heard that unpacking noise, looked round, the bridge layer had tipped, drove forward and bumped it into that rock and flipped it back. I'll cut it out, but I took the time. I extended the bridge, drove the loaf back on. I've already now drove the Iceberg to the point that I was going to, but I kind of had the footage of that, the footage of this driving, and I figured this is a newer truck, and it's got the bridge and everything on it. It's even got a loaf on top of that, so we'll see how well it does with tipping and all the rest of it. To be honest, like I said, I was half messing around. I ended up, like, I've not even made a video for like the 2 odd days. The first night I just didn't really, like, by the time I realised what time it was, I just hadn't even got started on the footage or anything, so I just ended up skipping that. And then yesterday I just went on a, like, well, I didn't sleep that night in the end. I think just my sleeping time pattern was all out of whack. Yeah, so I didn't sleep. Then the next day I started tidying, like, my bedroom. There's just loads of stuff I wanted to tidy. Not like unwashed plates or anything like that. It's just there was stuff that I just piled in the corner. There might be something in the way and I'm busy doing something else, and I'm just like, I'll quickly just chuck that in my room out the way. And yeah, I wanted to go through a load of stuff. And then as I was stepping off my bed, I landed funny on my ankle, and goddamn, it, like, you know where your ankle folds to the side and you kind of stand on it and try and stab your leg bone out the side of your foot. I kind of did that, but whilst not jumping off my bed, but you know where you just, like, let all the weight off the leg that's on the bed, and the one that lands on the floor is just going flat out down. And the leg that was on the bed, like, I've got a dodgy knee, so I don't really trust that, so I just went for it, fully dropped my weight about 3 or 4 foot and landed sideways on my ankle, and yeah, I felt the fucker, I know that. How the hell I didn't break it, to be honest, I don't know. I got away with it pretty lucky. For the first 10 or 15 seconds I thought, yeah, I've definitely broke that can't be good. But I started to slowly sort of wiggle it around, and yeah, got away pretty luckily, really, because I think just from a pure physics standpoint of stamping on an ankle like that from about a 4 foot drop, and I have no idea what I weigh. Probably, I don't know, 12.5, 13 stone I would have thought, and yeah. So I'm lucky it didn't break my ankle. I'll still feel it today a bit, but all in all, after half an hour it didn't feel that painful or anything. I kind of got off pretty lightly with it. But yeah, I finally got my room, like, well, all the stuff, not really my room, just a load of stuff that I wanted to go through and sort out and work out what I'm throwing, what I'm not. And anyway, yeah, this little drive, to its credit, it didn't tip, even when it has got that bridge folder on its back and a loaf on top of that. So, I mean, it's not impossible to tip by any means, but yeah, it's pretty decent and fair. Like, it feels more like a truck should, that most of the weight's in the truck, obviously. Some vehicles on this game just have so little weight in the actual vehicle themselves that anything like packed on top or whatever is pretty boaty. Yeah, this is the Bartelbi Zikz. I used it in the live stream, but it was around the time when I was using this that gearbox thing kind of kicked in and started breaking the gearbox, so I kind of wanted to use this again. And I brought, you can see the trailer behind is normally a Scout trailer, but I just went through the trailer pack and that was an option. It was also near the top. It's a pretty small trailer, obviously light, piece of piss to tow, it hasn't got a dolly axle, and I kind of thought, well, I can attach it to one of my loafs, because I always bring a loaf with me, of course, goddamn professional. But yeah, that was my kind of idea, that if I get to some, like, again, hard to reach place, name of the mission, if, especially like driving this with its little crane legs sticking out the side and all the rest of it, it might get snagged on trees. Yeah, so that's kind of why I brought this trailer, and you'll see why I kind of specifically mention that in a minute. As for this little bit, where you grab the cargo from, it's clearly like death mud, pure death mud, well, death snow, I mean, there's mud underneath it, it's basically mud. Yeah, death mud, so if you're not using mods, I think one of the only vehicles that you could use here is this Zikz, because it seems to be like, as it's the vehicle that was added in this phase, Death Mud also kind of came with this phase, so it seems to be the only vehicle that can kind of, and it'll be very slow. I mean, again, this is that Bartelbi's modded version, and you can see how slow it is, which again, like, makes me think that they, rather than code in the terrain just to be like what it is and the truck drives over it, they specifically code like speed limits, rev limits, all the rest of it into the actual terrain itself, and when your truck's on it, it just behaves the same no matter what, because yeah, this thing was exactly the same speed as a normal stock Zikz, even though it's like got a much more powerful engine. And then yeah, yesterday, as you can see, I rolled the cargo container off it. This was after I hurt my ankle and everything. After I hurt my ankle, I kind of half fell asleep on the sofa, and then I drove out that death mud. The container rolled off, and I was just like, do you know what? My ankle was hurting. I was fighting the urge to go fall asleep, so I was like, I'm just going to bed. At least by the time I wake up, my ankle probably won't hurt as much. Yeah, so then tonight, got it loaded up, drove this thing down this little hill. I believe it's the anchors on this thing that appear, I could be wrong on that, but you can see where they are right at the back corners. I think they're just a bit grippy with the way they're kind of hitboxed, but they really do hook into things and then like lock onto it, so yeah, it's either that or the bar at the back that is part of like the mechanism that swings the bridge out, but I am pretty sure it's the anchors, because I don't think it was in a video, but when I was messing around with the bridge layer the other day, I kind of got the anchors caught on a few things. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this is the point though. The perfect example of where the bridge layer is pretty handy is obviously all along here. There is no bridge going over here, and this was the point I'd kind of chosen, because as you look on the map, like, yeah, the aerial view of the map, this looks about the only way that isn't surrounded by dense trees or rocks that are basically acting as like a cliff face that you're not just going to be able to drive up. Goddamn horse. He's going for it. Thing is though, and I might have the anchors down there, I can't remember. Maybe, yeah. But either way, it's fine with the loaf on there, I can still lay the bridge. And part of the reason, like, it was kind of handy to have a loaf on there and all the rest of it is, I wanted to send the loaf up as a bit of a scout, like, just to see, before I send a truck, you know, looking around or whatever. And yeah, I mean, there's this bit here, but it's a pretty narrow road up here. There's all those rocks there, there's immovable trees kind of everywhere. So I was just kind of having a little bit of a nosy around, working out which way to go. I can see why somebody said a while ago, like, they kind of want to see me do this, and I assume they did mean on a normal mission, not mods. But for the most part, I mean, the bridge layer is what it is. I do believe I could just jump off that cliff thing near the bridge over to the top left of the screen, really, so that in and of itself, I kind of felt like I wanted to do the bridge layer mod because it should be a little bit more realistic. Yeah, so now drove the loaf back because I'd done a little bit of scouting, and I wanted to switch, put the trailer on the loaf. However, it said unsuitable or whatever it says in like the middle right of the screen. Basically, I think because it's a modded trailer that obviously normally wouldn't be allowed on a truck, it must be specifically coded just for, like, I got it off the Bartelbi mod. I don't know if it's like the Bartelbi mod side of things or the trailer pack side of things, but yeah, it wouldn't let me attach the loaf to it, which was a bit of a shame. So well, yeah, I just reattached it back to the Zikz, crane to this cabin, back on this cabin and trailer are not a good combination. I'm only saying that because there's another mission on this game, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but you've got to move a trailer and a cabin like this. And I did it on live stream ages ago, and the cabin just falls off this trailer for fun every 2 seconds. Long story short here, I was driving up to the trailer, and between, like, look, you can see there I kind of bumped it into some ice that moved the trailer. I just really wasn't happy with the angle it's at and all the rest of it, so I moved the Zikz back, brought the bridge layer back, attached it, kind of drove. I'm pretty much in the same place I was. I'm just putting the bridge at a better angle, A, for me to turn sort of onto it, like, instead of it being, I don't know, like a 130 degree turn, it's now more like an 80-90 degree turn for my Zikz. But yeah, I mean, well, that was the main thing. I just wasn't happy where it was. And to be honest, other ways I could suggest doing this, I mean, I could get a loaf with that same trailer. See, this is the thing where the cranes on this game suck, but in theory, if the cranes were working well enough, I could, you know, drive near the edge of the side I was just on and crane a loaf over to the other side, crane the trailer over, crane the cargo over, and drive the loaf up here, etc, etc. I just had the sound of it auto unpack the loaf there, which is a bit of a shame, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Yeah, so even without mods as such, there's another way around it, but again, months and months ago, like a lot more like nearly a year ago, the cranes worked well enough that you could lift a loaf at full crane extension. These days you can't, so if I was trying to lift a loaf and move it like over that like water bit where I've just bridged over, I don't know, it's one of them, you'd have to rush it, you'd have to kind of dangle the loaf over the water with the crane fully retracted, and then fire out and extend the crane as quick as possible before it just starts auto dropping to the ground, and hopefully you reach the other side and drop the loaf off. But in theory that's another way around it. I didn't realise now, I kept flinging a winch out, it was winching from the trailer to the tree, hence why I was just, yeah, never really getting like a good turning circle. So I just quickly did the winch myself. Got like 9 million winch points, but thankfully it was pretty near the tree. See, it's things like that though, where I think I got my crane leg hooked there, and that's in theory why I wanted to bring a loaf specifically and brought this trailer, but as it wouldn't let me connect it. And yes, I did grab my goddamn horse. Yeah, well, that's that mission done. That's one of them, which in some ways I'd say that's the hardest. Like, yeah, that's what she said. This next middle one I'm going to do is actually not too bad. So I'm just driving straight back to this section that's all the death mud and the last 2 pieces of cargo. And I mean, if you imagine like that place I just went there, if I had the semi-trailer, once I'd delivered the stuff, trying to reverse or turn around the semi-trailer and all the rest of it, it's just, yeah, extra hassle that I don't really think, I don't know, unless you've really got your heart set on using the trailer it provides, but personally I couldn't really care less, so yeah, that was a pretty simple choice for me. Again with the old death snow, thankfully there is something in front of me I just winched to, so still pretty slow, but I was moving around the speed of the winch. Just wanted to kind of get up reasonably level. I was hoping and assuming that my crane reach, I'd at least be able to get offered like the little crane point for this cargo container. And yeah, I'm going to pass it over to the A's of Iceberg. 2 reasons mainly. I've just used the Bartelbi thing. And yeah, as you can see, like the crane legs got hooked on a tree. The Iceberg's kind of more streamlined. It was like the 3rd time loading that on. It was obsessed with rolling off, even though I'm near enough on level ground with the Iceberg. There's a little bit of a tilt, but not as much as the cargo container had in mind. So anyway, yeah, that's it on the Iceberg. I also probably don't really need this trailer, so I'm going to cut that loose in a second. And yeah, it's basically like from where I am now off to the left through these trees, and I reckon that's the only place I can see that is kind of half viable, because you can see if I carried on further to the right, there's loads of rocks and stuff that are pretty bloody massive. They're going to be an issue to climb over. So this is another thing I do like with the Iceberg, because he's done it so it's not just got the articulation, but it's got steering and rear steer. But because there is still a little bit of articulation, when you are weaving through trees and stuff, it's like it can move its actual nose left and right, so if you're just a little bit off with a tree, you can physically move your front of your truck left and right, instead of having to do like a, you know, little reverse, turn, forward, etc. And yeah, well, you can see that's how easy it was, and to be honest, mods or not, I don't know, the Dolphin or whatever would have drove up there, I would have said the same, wouldn't have had any rolling issues or anything like that. So the only thing really I've like mods wise is the bridge. Obviously that's been an advantage for me. I suppose like the Bartelbi Zikz and stuff made it, I don't know, a little bit easier, but apart from going a little bit slower, it wouldn't have really been any more difficult per se. I'd just been squeezing the throttle for a little bit longer in some places. There's no particular reason to cut down here. I'm gonna like drive out the other way. I was just curious to see how fast or slow the A's of Iceberg would go through the death mud. And if I'm honest, I do actually think it went a bit quicker than the Zikz, even the Bartelbi version. Finally realised as well, don't want that trailer. Finally started deleting some trailers. I ended up deleting that one I just detached, and that red one that I detached off the Iceberg. Didn't delete this one that came with the mission. Don't know why, just some weird, like, I get oddly sentimental about what arrived with the game. But yeah, now we've got that money mod where I can just keep adding as much money as I like, and I've got about 50 million, which, considering as well that I'm not sure how many millions that I got from doing the like the engine bug money thing with the Navistar and so on, but millions anyway. I would have thought 20 odd million, but yeah, adding that 50 million took, you know, like a minute. So deleting trailers now is just not a problem. So yeah, for this last one, you can kind of see that I've just drawn a line through the trees, because again, as you all look all around it, one side of it's just completely like locked off with massive rocks. 1/4 of it is like oddly steep at a weird angle, or there's going through the trees and kind of just trying to drive. Because it's extremely steep, if there's any amount of like diagonalness to your drive up there, you're going to tip. So you just kind of need to absolutely hit it straight and go directly up. Now Loaf's goddamn professional. Not only did he dive off and land on his wheels because he knows what he's doing, but just talking about how steep it is, he realised he knew what needed to be done. He didn't want to increase the tippiness of the iceberg, so he dived off like a bro. So yeah, in the end, like originally I could have followed the road a bit further up, but like I said, I'd be going on a bit of a diagonal to the direction of the extremely steep hill. And this way, to be fair, see though, this is where it's nice with the steering, rear steer and the actual articulation. Snaking your way through trees and stuff is very easy in the iceberg considering its size. Even now if I clipped a tree, I just put full steering on, and because it physically moves the front of my truck to the left in that case, it sort of moved it out the way of the tree. Yeah, the only way I can see now is ride the ridge. Yeah, that's what she said. I mean, it's sketchy because at this point it's like, yeah, could easily tip to the right. I am kind of balancing on a knife edge, however. God, I'm professional at riding that ridge, ladies. Yeah, we made it at the top though. Jump down here. Faceplant. I was thinking, no Milo. I'll faceplant and then roll to the left or right, and it'll unpack, etc. Got it done though. Money wise, I don't think it's that great. To be fair, it's probably not ruthless considering how bad some of the missions pay out. But anyway, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a goddamn beast. And I'll be back soon.